Today's topic, we're going to talk about features that you should be using. So this will cover a couple of interfaces. We're going to talk a little bit about Planner. I know some of you may not be using, that's our older interface, and then we'll segue into Viewer. So basically the concept of this is to talk about features that are available that we think that maybe might be underused or they're just pretty significant, and we think that you should be using them. So we'll talk, like I said, talk about a little bit about Planner. We'll seg into Viewer, and then we'll take a look at a demo. And I'll just be demoing the Viewer stuff. So basically, for Planner, the older interface, a lot of stuff has been built into it for report generation. Back in the client server days, Planner was basically the only interface we had, and it had its pros and cons, and one of the things was that it was not the best reporting solution. It was a pretty good online analytical tool, but in terms of reporting, it wasn't great. So we actually added in a bunch of reporting features that you could actually take advantage of, take control over the headers and footers and some additional things that you would typically find for report generation, report generators, such as like a PDF report, etc. Reports now obviously looking a little bit more professional looking. This is actually a snapshot of what the report would look like out of Planner, and trust me, it was a lot more cryptic before this. So a lot of good stuff. Scaling options, fit to page are available. Margins were incorporated into the interface. Headers and footers, where you can put in pagination or some titles or some imaging, maybe a logo, some things like that. So a lot of stuff was done in the Planner interface. We can also see that within the interface there is a report formatter toolbar icon added, so that within the view you could click on that and gain access quickly to these features. Where I can set portrait or landscape, I could set up the scaling and the margins pretty easily by just clicking in on that particular toolbar icon. Planner also has this ability to export the reports. So there's this concept of creating these export groups, and they can be exported to Excel and PDF, and you can automate it. So there's different ways that you could automate this process using the Planner interface. Again, I don't want to go too much into this, only because it's not as heavily used as it used to be. Here's the program that you can use. We actually have a custom program that you would use to automate these reports out of Planner and be able to take advantage of some of that reporting capability. Another cool thing that was added to Planner, if you're still using it, actually this is quite useful, is the layout editor. So if you notice the toolbar icon with the folder and the magnifying glass, if you click on that, it brings up all the different elements within the view. It's very similar to the View Explorer within Viewer, and you're able to hide and deselect certain things to quickly hide them. So that was added to make things hidden or visible much easier in the interface. Planner also has the ability to apply other reports, or what we call a template, to the existing report that you're analyzing. So the Apply Template button quickly exposes all the templates that are available, that you can quickly then select the one that you want to overlay on your current screen. And the cool part about that is that actually it's kind of like Drill to View in the world of Viewer. It retains the drill down and the filters that you've already been through. So it's pretty powerful in terms of what you can do within the Planner interface for applying a template. Planner also has the copy and pasting ability to create your a user list. So if you create user list today, you can actually copy a selection from an Excel spreadsheet, or whatever other list that you might have of certain items or customers or whatever type of list you're trying to create. So again, you can do this in the viewer interface as well. So this does exist within viewer. So you can quickly create your user lists by some other list that might be from another document. Planner also gives you the ability to change the mode of inquiry. This view mode allows you to change and look at things that might be more master file driven. This also allows you to spot things where you're not selling certain items or to certain customers, etc. So this is a way that you can actually expose or identify sales opportunities potentially by using your inquiry mode. Viewer has a similar concept where you can expose the same types of opportunities as well. The options for Planner, by default, it's non-zero only. So when you run a view, it really only shows data. It doesn't show any rows that may not have any data. You can also change that, however, to master file all, which will then show all the master files for that level, even if it does not have data in it. So it can be quite useful to see certain territories that may not have sales for given products. Might be an example where it would be, you might use something like that. Or you can just have it return to zero, just the empty rows. Just identify, the territories where there's no sales for that particular item or list of items. And then finally, there's some concepts to do some complex filtering within Planner, probably more of an underused concept here, where you can incorporate multiple columns within your filter. So the complex filtering menu is pretty critical if you want to do some serious filtering across the columns of your view. Oh, and then you have also the ability to sort multiple, do secondary sorting as well within Planner. So you can actually go into the sort menu and really kind of get pretty sophisticated with the sort orders. Okay, so that's kind of it on the Planner side. Let's talk a little bit about Viewer and some of the concepts that are available within Viewer that can certainly help make your views pop. And one concept here would be to use the conditional formatting. It's pretty simple to set up. You can basically, the concept here is similar to the concept within Excel, where you can set up a column to have certain colors that show certain alert users to certain situations within the data. And these can be a global format definition, or it can be a custom definition that the user sets up within their specific view. When you select the conditional formatting, you can see that when you go into the menu, you can see where you can actually select a specific global format and apply it to that specific column. You can also click down on the custom button. There's a little button down here called custom that allows you to set up your own custom conditional format as well. We'll look at more of that into the demo and see how the conditional formatting can really help you identify certain anomalies. There's also this concept of using images. You might be maybe in the book industry, or this particular customer had, this is not their data per se, but they sell watches, and so it was important to them, or nice at least, while they went through some of their weekly meetings of top selling items. They can see, as we all know, the watch industry is more of a fashion industry than anything else now these days. So it's important for them to identify the style, to see what it looks like as they go through their numbers on a weekly basis. So I can see maybe other examples where you can see maybe a cover of a book, or maybe if you're in the other types of fashion designer type industries, glasses would be another. Frames might be an interesting concept here too. With viewer, you can also do some hypertexting for a given column. We actually have a couple examples of this set up within our demo. And one of those examples, well, there's a map capability, and there's also a Google capability, or anything else that you might want to take advantage of out on the internet. There's quite a few things out there and web services that you could tap into by using perhaps using some of the hypertexting capabilities within your view. Here, in this example is such where you could click in on the map and it will show you where that customer is located, and that can help a sales rep kind of identify where the account is before they take off to a trip. They can then kind of cluster their certain customers together within a region, and then click on the map icons to help them plan out their week. They can also look up certain industry news or any other news that's relevant for that customer by quickly clicking on the Google button. It will then do a Google search on that customer's name. So again, the concept here is to provide other areas of analysis and other data points very quickly and easily by using some of these concepts. In this case, the hypertexting capability, where you can put a button out there, as you can see, the Google or a mapping button, and they can quickly click on that, and it will do all the heavy-duty work for them. Also, you can have some pop-up text where they can quickly identify what that item is. Here, I can hover over the picture of that item, and I can get the item number, even though it's right there. But you can also do other things like a conditional format. You can hover over a conditional format and see the rule of why that cell would be green, or yellow or red for that matter. So there's some other really cool things that you can do with the pop-up text that's available within Viewer. This is probably something a little more cosmetic. It's not really, that significant, but it could just, give you a little bit more of a cosmetic look to your view, and that's just simply adding the border lines to your grid. So if you right-click and do a properties check on the grid folder, you can actually see where you can, you can hide the grid altogether if you wanted to, but you can also change the border to yes, so that you can get black borders around every cell within your data grid. And then there's the presentation mode. I don't know if it's in the upper right-hand corner any longer. I don't think it is. But there is a presentation folder within the View Explorer that you would toggle between Viewer or Excel is essentially what's available. And I'll show you an example. Maybe you want a view to open up and straight download to Excel instead of analyzing it online. Maybe you just want to take the data down to Excel. Every time you click on that view, it will then prompt you to save the view to Excel as opposed to showing it online within the view. So that's your presentation mode that you can change pretty quickly and easily within the view within View Explorer. And then this is one of my favorite things, probably again more underused, is this concept of drilling to another view. So you can actually set this up, and once your initial view, once you've done your thing there, it will then take you to another view where you can further your analysis. I really do. I love this concept. So it provides an excellent analytical capability to quickly pivot from one view to another. You can guide a user down a logical analytical path, and you can apply it to rows, columns, and measures. For instance, you might have a specific drill down that you want them to go through first before taking them to that other view. So by setting it up on your rows and putting in the appropriate drill down dimensions, once they exhaust the drill down, they'll then be taken to the target view that you want to take them to. And that view can be, quite different. And that's the concept here, right, is to take them to something that would, potentially give them more data, tell them more of a business story. They might be analyzing, year-to-date sales for given customers. Well, maybe they want to see a trend very quickly and easily. Well, the initial view might have, just set up for time range. It's not set up for like a trend style of analysis. Well, you can just take them to another view that's already set up that way, and all they have to do really is to click a couple times, and they're there. So it's really up to the view administrators and folks to build these views that make this product really sing and to do what it's really meant to do. So I really do believe that the drill down view gives you that capability. Okay, so we'll look at that. We'll look at some examples of that. This is really simple. Once you're in a view, if you're using time range, if you ever want to change that time range, which I imagine that you would from time to time, just simply double-click on that column, and it will bring up the actual column for changing your time range. Pretty simple. Another really cool thing I like a lot is adding customized calculation headers. Here we can see I can set up a calculation or a variance column where it can tell me what it's actually doing the math on or providing a difference on. Here I can see that sales, that's my variance between 04 and 03 sales. And so if I were to change these to units, and I would then have my units instead of dollars there, well, of course, my calculation is going to change as well. And along with my calculation, my header of that calculation will then change with the measure change. And it will then say actual sales units, 03 versus actual sales units of 04. Or if I were to change my time range in my first two columns, it would then be reflected in the column header over there in my calculation. So I love this. We didn't have this, but for a few versions ago, and I really do think that this adds quite a bit of good dynamic features to your view. Another really cool thing I think that we've done here is you're giving you a little bit more freedom of what you can customize within the view. Many times you might have a dimension that might have a really long name, and you might want to just change it, to fit the view better, perhaps, to make the columns shorter, so that your view fits your screen better. Well, you can do that. You can actually change the dimension names and the actual descriptions headers so that they fit better and they make maybe more sense to you. And this is just strictly at the view level. Obviously, you're not changing, the metadata behind the scenes or anything like that. Another really cool thing I think that we've added is this ability to, when you're within a view, is to identify what's going on with filters. If you've been using Viewer for a while, you know that filters play a pretty critical role within your view, and you have different filters in different areas of the view. this really kind of gives you the ability to see all your filters in one menu, so you can quickly assess what's being filtered in your view. So by clicking on the filter icon within your view toolbar, it will then expose all the filters that you have going on for all the dimensions within your view. And you can work with them within this menu. You can delete them, you can change them, so that it's, again, a pretty quick way to access your filters and manage them accordingly. Another great concept here, I love this concept, is this ability to add in your start or end dates for your weeks. Certain time periods are pretty self-explanatory. For instance, if you're at a month level, all I need to know is whether this is January, February, or March. When you're at a daily level, it tells you the dates, January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. Well, the problem with weeks is that it never really had that concept. Week 1, week 2, week 3. Well, that doesn't really tell me much. What is my week range? Where is this week in terms of the calendar? And this ability to add this time frame gives you that capability. It gives you that resource so that you know what that week represents. And this is all based on your calendars. We're not just grabbing this week from the system date or anything like that. This is actually coming from the tables of Stratum, and it's populating your weeks that you defined within your Stratum interface. Okay, so this is the fruit of all the labor that you put into your calendars. This is something that you can provide to your users so that they know what the weeks actually represent. Okay. In any other time frame that may not be as self-explanatory, you might have maybe some fiscal periods set up that maybe don't say the actual date per se. Well, you can certainly use the same concept for those as well. So those are the things I wanted to take you through. And so now I'd like to maybe show you some of these concepts within the actual interface. And like I said, we're just going to concentrate here on some of the concepts within Viewer. I guess the first thing that I'm showing you here is a view. We've already shown processed the view, and we can see that this particular view has time as a dimension in it. I'm going to go ahead and collapse my left frame menu over here. So here's an example where we're using time as a dimension. I really like this concept because it kind of brings you back to basically, old school viewer, if you will, where you're able to actually use time and drill in on time as a dimension. See, notice how I can aggregate back up to the year and see any. I don't have any measures of data here. This is just strictly to show you, how you could use these new descriptive columns here, especially when you get down to the weekly level. We can see our those are our months. Those are our month range. Probably would look better if I had my weeks in there as well. There's my weeks. So if I drill the week, let's see what we get. There we go. So here are my weeks within January. We can see that week six, it doesn't really belong. It actually goes through February 5th. So we can kind of see how these weeks are segmented out. So for instance, if I were to just strictly analyze this view by week, I could do something like this. Here we can see all the weeks that are available, and using that the start and the end dates for your weeks. So how do I get them in there? Well, if you expand your time dimension here, we can see that year is hidden. Let's actually show that, because we can drill back up to the year. So here's all my years and all my weeks. So again, I can aggregate that. I can roll that back down to the year, and then drill in on any one of my given years to expose the week. But as you can see, if you drill down, if you expand the time dimension level in your view, you can see that at the low level, I can right-click on that and select Edit Attribute Relationships. And that will allow you to bring these start and end dates down. If you notice, here's where they're located. And if I just maybe wanted just the start date, then I could do that and make that available. Okay, so now I've just selected that. I'm going to bring in a measure here, just like some sales dollars or something. So this will look a little bit better. Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure what that's all about. This is a new version, so I do have some, there might be some issues here. But that's how you would add those in. So in any view that you use that has time as a dimension, you're going to be able to do this, and you're going to be able to add in by clicking down at the low level of time. For instance, I could do that for months. I could do the same thing. I can bring in Edit Attribute Relationship, and I can, as you can see, they're already selected. But yeah, that's how you're going to get those time range dates in there for it into your view. See if we can get a view to run here. So looking at some of these other really cool concepts here, specifically conditional formatting. As you can see right away, by running this view, we can see conditional formats. We can also see ability to highlight and color an entire column if you wanted to. You can also use conditional formatting to highlight certain situations. So very quickly here, we can see the percent difference column. If we were to right-click on that and show properties, we can then see how the conditional format has been set up. So within the properties of each column, you can see, obviously, that the conditional format is turned on. We can see that it's been named Sales Plan Difference. And if we click there on the button, we can go in and actually see how it's defined. And man, I just can't get anything to work today. There we go. And it looks like it's a global conditional format that was selected here. So if I were to go into my custom button, it will then kind of show me what that conditional format, how it was constructed. Okay, and I can do a save as here, and maybe change it to something else. I can work with it and play with this and save it as my own conditional format if I want to. But this kind of shows you how this is set up. As you can see, it's going to be negative or less than a 0.1 or 10%, or that's a negative. Anything less than a negative 10%. Anything greater than a positive 6% is going to be green, and then anything in the middle there is going to be yellow. So this is a pretty simple concept. Although, as you can see, I can add more arguments and create additional segments if I wanted to. You can add as many arguments as you want here, so you can get pretty sophisticated with it. Another concept that we're doing here, if you notice, if I hover over each one of these, it's going to tell me what the rule is. Okay, and it's going to basically kind of do the same thing for the rest of gives me the same information. I like this because it actually gives me, this pop-up gives me expected sales, and it kind of gives me a little synopsis of what it is, the sum of sales through the previous month, and the expected sales for the current month. So you can explain things to your users if you want to. And they have a better idea of how, here we can see, again, a different explanation here. So the pop-up, as you can see, well, for the conditional format is actually set up just to show the description of the conditional format itself. Whereas this one here, let's take a look at the properties of this one. This pop-up is set up for custom text. So we've just hard-coded custom text into the pop-up for this particular column. And that's cool too. We can write whatever we want. We can explain what this column means so that the users know that when they hover over and they get text, they can get additional meaningful data about that column. So I really, I love that pop-up capability, that you can just quickly, tell the user a few things about that column. So again, any one of these measures or columns, since that's what they really are, is a measure creating a column of data. You can take advantage of this. You can take advantage of the conditional format, the pop-up. We can see imaging. It's not being used, but we'll take a look at that real quick. Looks like we got a drill to view happening here, or maybe a hypertext, one or the other. Let's take a look at this column here, and we do. We have a hypertext, a hyperlink. What is this hyperlink doing? So if we click in on that, it's basically taking me to another view. So it's almost like a drill to view, except we're just using hypertext, the hypertexting to drill us to the other view. I guess that's one way to do it, although there's a much easier way to handle this. But this is great. This is actually a cool way to do it because you can just make it available in one column. For instance, if I were to do this using drill to view, to be honest with you, if I were to do it at the measure level, all my measures would be hypertexted, and I don't know if that's what you really want. So this is actually a pretty cool idea, where you can set up and hypertext in to what view that you want to take them to when they click in on that. One other thing, notice that they're passing in the salesperson parameter to pass in what sales rep they click on. So Patrick Hurley here is the sales rep. So let's try this out. I'm going to click on it. It's going to run another view and take me to the view, the target view. And we can see that, indeed, it passed the Patrick Hurley sales rep ID. So this view is only showing me data for Patrick Hurley. Another thing it's doing is that it's showing me a trend. So I went from a view, which is time range, to a view that's now showing me a trend for Patrick's business. And I can see how Patrick is doing well. He's trending upward for the Class A customers. His Class C customers need a little work. They're a little flat. So, and then I can just close that out, and I'm back to seeing what Nicole might do. So if I click on Nicole's numbers, I can see that indeed it passed Nicole now over to the target view, and I can see that she doesn't have any Class B customers, and that her sales is declining. What's going on with her? Maybe I should lob a call over to Nicole and talk to her about her accounts. So those are the things that you can identify, and those are the quick. I can identify them very quickly by just taking them to another view. And in this case, we're using the hyperlink capability because maybe we just want to give them the capability to go at any particular moment. They don't have to follow a drill down or all my numbers are not hypertexted the way they would be if I were to use my drill to view capability. Okay. let's drill this down a little bit more and let's see what we get. Looks like, oh, well, what do you know? We get a little an icon here to do a search on Wilder Foods. So here's that. Let's take a look at this column. So I'm going to do a properties check on that column, and there's quite a bit going on here. First of all, we've got the Google it icon displayed. Okay, and that's all we wanted to do here, is just to show it the Google icon wherever, when the value is, when it has data, essentially. So wherever there's data, show me a Google icon. Then also, my pop-up expression, if I just hover over that, it's going to show me search for news for Wilder Foods. And that's exactly who we're looking at here. How does it do that? That's very cool, via Google. Well, it's your pop-up, so let's take a look at the language there. And we can see that in the pop-up expression that we've constructed the syntax as such where, first of all, if the description is null, then don't do anything, just make it a null. Otherwise, we hard-coded search for news for, as you can see, it's in double quotes. And then we added the customer long description to that syntax, and then we appended more custom text at the end via Google. So that's how you would set something like that up. It's actually an intelligent pop-up. It actually shows me some intelligent information about which customer it is that I'd do a search on. What happens when we click on it? It searches for Wilder Foods. And, it shows you what it finds. So that's pretty slick. I mean, how does that happen? Well, that's the hyperlink. So, obviously that's been turned on. Let's take a look at that. Well, again, we still have that check in here. If the description is null, we still don't want to really do anything. So that's all this piece does. And then if it's not null, then I want it to actually search Google. So notice how I have syntax as such, where it already starts off the Google URL. The syntax also starts off the search capability. So as you can see, there's language in here telling it to go to a search capability within Google. And then I'm appending in the long description of the customer from the view. So that's what it's going to do its search on. Okay, so that's not too difficult to put to set something like this up. Whereas for the customer or your users, they'll think it's magic. So you can do some really cool stuff like this, but just by using some of these features within your view. So quite a bit there in terms of what you can do for that. Here we kind of have the same concepts here, where we can drill down and get access to the Google search button. So pretty cool. Other things, again, if I wanted to change any of these columns, these column headers, if I right click and I do a properties check on those, check it out. I can make these much smaller. Now I want to go into the caption expression to do this. I know you probably want to go in here to do that, but if I go into the caption expression, I can see that it's using the actual name of the measure, or the column itself, or what the default is. Okay. If I just want to maybe make it my own, I can do something like this. I can abbreviate it if I want to. Right? If that's your intent, you can do your own column header there as such. Okay. I can even change up the dimension name. Maybe I just wanted to say sales rep. Now be careful here. You are hard coding. Okay. If you were to change your dimension, it's going to still say sales rep. So be careful. You don't want to overdo it here. I can see that using for descriptions might be more relevant, but do be careful. This is something that you don't want to go too crazy with. So, but those are the kind of the concepts that I kind of wanted to talk about today.
Unmuted.
Any questions about any of the concepts we talked about today? Does anybody have any questions about it?
Can you show us the image option in the properties?
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to find that. I was clicking around a little bit trying to find that. I know I've got that somewhere here. I think it's under my views here. Let's see. Bear with me. It's in one of these. There we go. So this view's got quite a bit going on with it. Obviously, it's got some graphing in it as well. This is interesting, actually. I mean, you got a couple of graphs. You got a data grid here on the left, and here's your image column. There's your pop-up. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So for the image, it's just using a hyperlink, actually.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, it's kind of hard coded a little bit, but it's showing you that if it's this particular item number, then show this particular image. Notice how it's passing the image number to the syntax of the image itself. So you don't have to hard code, obviously everything here. It's so you have an if statement here that's obviously they're doing something here, hard coding something to that particular item number, but then everything else seems to be using a different image here. So you don't necessarily need that logic in there per se, but I guess the important part is, first of all, you got to have the images somewhere that are readily accessible. And that could be on the actual server itself, or as you can see from some URL, because that's what's happening right here.
Okay,
it's just
so basically
it's basically just using the URL here to access the image.
Okay, so once you change in the View Explorer image to yes, then you can go and add the hyperlink.
No, you don't even have to do that, actually. That's just saying for it to show the image. That's something that you would want to turn on, yeah. So you don't necessarily need I don't know if you have to turn that on per se. Let's turn that off and see what happens. Oh, yeah, I guess it does get rid of your image. So yeah, that obviously needs to be turned on.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure that is on.
So the only way to display an image would be to say yes to image, and then add a hyperlink that is going to link to that particular image.
That's correct.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Don't be shy. I've got nothing to do today other than to go out and shovel my driveway. So.
Wow.
Yeah, we just got a bunch of snow. So.
Where are you located?
Chicagoland area.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we got hammered pretty hard. About, I want to say 6 to 8 inches of snow at least.
Oh, that's nothing.
No, it's not too bad. But it's still, I think we're getting another 6 more today. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I want to thank everyone for their attendance, and we'll have another one of these in 2 more weeks. So make sure you check out the curriculum. It's actually online. So if you go to your home page, you should see the upcoming courses here. And what do we have coming up here? Let's see. Tips and tricks of managing your views. And this will probably go into quite a bit about the view menu, which has been enhanced quite a bit. If you notice, you can see who owns it, when it was last used, who it is used by. So there's a lot of good data points here that they'll probably go in and talk a little bit about, among other things. So that'll be the next session. And again, that's on your home page. So if you go to your home page within Viewer, you should see a similar home page here where you can get access to the upcoming courses and see what's coming up here in the next few weeks. So, all right, well, that's all from me. Again, I want to thank everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you in the next Insight session. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The conference is ending.